This may be a reflection of him.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. We have the wonderful Chris Zhang, a friend of mine, entrepreneur from China. We met in the China Accelerator program. And now, after all these years, we're both back in Europe and we've been working together on fundraising, and we're both Christians. So, Chris really inspired me actually when I first became Christian in China by sharing her story of faith. I really want to cover those topics in this chat about faith and fundraising, basically. So, Chris, to get started, actually, let me start with a more casual question.
Mm.
What is your experience to date with fundraising? Like, can you just summarize for us, like, your experience maybe in China Accelerator, like, as a kind of investor, and also experience yourself as a founder with fundraising?
Yeah. So in China Accelerator, I was more on the growth side. After we invest in the company, then I help the company with growth. I spent there 4.5 years, helped over 70 companies with growth from all stage, ideation stage to Series B. It was a very, very fun journey because I could learn from so many founders and observe the pattern of what contributes to the growth, to the next stage of the growth for the companies, and also correlate that back to the fundraising strategy. And yeah, later when I became founder myself, actually, let me step back. Before I became founder, I was working for another smaller startup called Kaiko Systems. It was a maritime tech company, a very traditional industry. Even though I was leading growth there, because as a head of growth, you always need to put yourself into the bigger picture, right? Like where the company is going in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. So when I joined the company, I already had the idea of where we want to be in 5 years, and then lay them back out into the milestones. And the reason why I'm talking about growth so much is because it's also correlated to the fundraising strategy that we're talking about. Right? So it worked out very well. Within 1 year, we had over 1 million ARR. And yeah, that directly contributed to our seed. And now we're raising Series A. So yeah, I guess here on top of my head, what I want to say is that fundraising is not an end goal. The end goal is to build a good product, and how, especially right now in such a competitive environment, how you can stand out from the other competition is by showing that you have the traction. Yeah, so that's with my last company. Now, fast forward to my own startup. Because my last project company was going super well, and I was coming from the VC point of view, I had actually very high requirements for me. So people were suggesting me to already start fundraising at early stage, but I was like, wait a moment, let me build a prototype. And once I had my prototype, I'm like, wait a moment, let me build my beta product. And once I have my beta product, wait a moment, let me have some users. And then when I go to the investors, they're like, what is your growth rate? So the point here is that be aware of where you're heading to, and start to have the fundraising conversation early. Because the later you go, the higher you're putting yourself, the higher bar you're putting yourself into, and the investors' expectation also gets higher. So that was so eventually for my own SaaS product, we built it within 4 months. We had like over 50 organizations signed up, but investors, especially external institutional investors, they were asking for growth rate. However, I did have some angels that were very supportive from the very beginning, and then yeah, committed some money. I didn't take them eventually because I just clearly saw that there was a misalignment between the problems users having versus the solutions I was offering. So that was my SaaS project. And coming fast forward, like one step forward, then I started to build a semiconductor project. With my learning from last time, I started to engage with investors. Once I understand the problem is solid, and we have unfair advantage for that. And we were getting very, very, very good feedback from investors and accumulated a lot of interest contacts as well.
Interesting. Yeah. Thanks for explaining. You already gave some gold wisdom there about growth rate and investor expectations changing over time. Can I ask you to summarize, like, throughout your journey as well, like, what are some of the main challenges you've seen with fundraising? Like, you already explained one of them about the growth rate. Is there anything else that you've seen or experienced personally?
Yeah. So the other reason why I didn't start with fundraising with my own first SaaS project was also because I think I need to prove myself more. Yeah.
Mm,
And perhaps that's also coming from a sense of insecurity about myself. And I mean, look at a lot of SaaS products. They actually started fundraising very early as well. Once the problem is validated, reflect now I'm actually helping another project with fundraising. And I just, I can do that no problem. I can pitch nonstop. I can, I can reach out to any investors. And I was just reflecting early today, like why could I do it for other people and why couldn't I, but I couldn't do it for myself, right? So I think
yeah.
that's a mentality that we have to change. For example, if we can keep the promise for other people to be on time for something, we should also do that for ourselves. That's just a small thing. And coming to fundraising is also the same thing, right? If we can trust in other team and the product and pitch to investors that much, then we should also have at least the same level of trust with ourselves.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to learn myself at the moment and trying to practice on a daily basis, just like trusting myself and self-trust again. And like it seems to be a problem for maybe not just women, but a lot of women in particular, I think, have these challenges. Would you say there's any challenges that have been different compared to what you've seen like men go through, would you say? Or is that not relevant?
Sure, for sure. I'm a person that really likes to read tech news.
Mm.
So when I read tech news, I also check on the founders.
Mm.
You see a lot of big rounds coming every day, and you go check the founders, and you just see that male founders, are very bold. Like you see,
Mm.
they probably had like two internships before, and now they're fundraising for this idea.
Mm.
Or when you take one idea to investors, and a lot of them will tell you it's so competitive in the market already. Don't do that. We
Mm.
wouldn't invest in a project like this. But then 1 month later, you see some people didn't like probably have the same amount of experience that you have and build the same product but raise a big round.
Mm.
And I just see that there are more male founders that dare to put them out there, right? And I admire that. And I think that's something that we also need to learn.
Yeah, yeah, that is so true. Like, we need to have more role models as well, I think, like in the news and media, like us, right? And what do you think about how your faith ties into fundraising? Like, as a Christian, like, how does your faith help you on the fundraising journey?
Yeah. So I can't stop pray for one day because entrepreneurship is so hard
Mm.
and faith brings hope. So
Mm.
without praying, I get easily lost in operations. And by the time I realize I don't have hope anymore.
Mm.
So, yeah, and I feel very thankful when we were having this fundraising sessions because that
Mm.
was a time when I was the busiest. 8:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. in the office, things back to back, back to back. I didn't have time to pray anymore. It was really hard for
Mm.
me to hear God's voice or to believe that, to believe that God could talk to me, to believe that like God is working,
Mm.
right? But when we
Yeah.
were talking, I think I told you, you were holding me down to earth. Like, you know, God is speaking. When we were in the sessions, I feel God was speaking to me. And it
Wow.
was through that I could get energy to keep on pushing.
Mm.
It was, yeah, through that, it was like God's energy was coming to me and I wasn't burning my own energy.
Wow. Okay, I got goosebumps. Wow. Thank you, Holy Spirit. That is really cool to hear. I mean, what are some of the things that you want to know when it comes to like how to incorporate your faith in fundraising? Like,
Hmm.
do you feel like there's tools out there already, or like what do you want to learn basically that would help you even more to bring your faith into your work?
So on the tools or template side, there are many. I think for first-timer founders, as long as somebody is giving you those tools or templates, you can incorporate it in your systems easily. But that's only scratching the very, very little surface. What's more important really is believing in yourself and start to reach out to investors, start to have those conversations and be bold with your ask.
Mm.
Yeah, and believe that God put you on this journey for a reason.
Mm.
Regardless if it's going to be successful or not, God put you in a situation. God is not wasting time.
Love it. Okay. I feel like you should be a preacher, Chris. um, okay. And I mean, we were talking just a minute ago about you reflecting on this new year and
Mm-hmm.
what you want to do differently. And you mentioned that the benefit of hindsight, right? It's always easier to look back than when you're in the situation. So, say if you met another lady like you a year ago, what would you tell her that you wish you had known about fundraising?
Okay, first thing, reach out to your friends earlier. People who have gone through the process already, reach out to
Mm.
them. Whatever you need like a financial model template, get it from them. You need like a feedback from your pitch deck, send it over and have a call with them. If you don't feel confident, then just do all the things to make yourself feel confident, because I know it's not something that you can fake, right? You really have to get your work done in order to do that. And second of all, I'm thinking, because I started to have initial investor conversation when investors reached out to me when I was in very early stage, just at ideation, didn't even think about what the product is. Just because I update my LinkedIn to sales, founders and
Mm.
CEO investors were reached out to me. So I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready, but my friend told me that you should build a relationship with them early.
Mm.
I'm just reflecting if it's a good suggestions or bad suggestion. I think the only good outcome came out to me was that this investor, that female founders focus, so they also have a community that they were building. So
Mm.
after our call, despite that I had nothing, she invited me to the investor breakfast. But outside
Mm.
of that, the feedback were all like, you're too early for us, come back with us, come back to us with more traction. And when I go back to them, even with my monthly email, it just doesn't create any splash. However, when
Mm.
I was fundraising for my semiconductor project or my current semiconductor project, because we had some traction already, they were just hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a very good product and then you have a good team and you have some initial traction, regardless what it means. Might be a pilot, might be technology proof or something. And they're hungry to have a call with you right away. You don't have to chase after them. They come to you. And when you reach out to them, they're very interested in having a conversation with you right away. So
Mm.
yeah. So should you have conversations before you're ready? No, I don't think so. But you can be selective. If they have a community and you're very confident, you're a extrovert, friendly, community driven person, then feel free to get involved with this kind of cluster of investors.
Mm.
Otherwise, know what it means. Good project. It might be your team is good. It might be the problem you're solving is really really good. It might be you have like a moat in your technology. Then with that, go to investors, but don't drag too long. Like what I did
Mm.
with my SaaS project, until I needed to have some traction, then that was too late. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So build relationship first with investors would be your key thing. And it takes
Mm,
time, right? So yeah, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, based on all these things you've learned and like looking to the future, like if you were to go out and do fundraising again, or even like imagine like what change you want to see when it comes to fundraising. Like what do you want to see different when it comes to like fundraising as a female founder, especially with faith? Like, what do you think about the kind of faith driven investment landscape right now? And what do you want to see change that would make it easier for you, maybe, as a founder?
I think the problem, regardless if it's in phase or not in phase, is that there's less money in very early stage companies. And perhaps I think it's also fair because they are investors eventually, right? They need to if you don't have a very strong background, like AI, lead engineer in Google, that no problem. They were going to throw money to you. If you don't have that background, you do need to show some traction. So from the investor side, I can't say. I don't know if I can give any suggestions because if I was investors, I would be as equally strict. Yeah, perhaps there could be more exchange sessions between face-driven investors and face-driven entrepreneurs because yeah, they need to get to know each other. It was hard for me to identify who are face-driven investors. Yeah, thinking
Mm,
back, I know one or two firms, but I don't see face-driven investors actively promoting themselves as face-driven.
okay, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah. Okay, I have like one final question, which is about something you mentioned earlier about self confidence. Like, you mentioned like having a good background and all, but what if someone doesn't have like the Google background and maybe they're lacking a bit of self confidence? Like, what would you advise them to do to boost their confidence? Like,
Mm,
one top thing, maybe.
yeah, speak to God first. If God gave you the signs of this is the right path, then you'll start to really believe in yourself. And the other thing I really liked was a visualization that you did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So also do some visualization. And last thing, be very diligent as well. Hard work is inevitable. So yeah, be diligent with all the materials you need to prepare, with all the things you need to do, but don't think of it as a suffering. Think of it as like a process of learning or whatever goals that you're having for that process. Because I realize that if I just focus on the end results, I get very impatient and very anxious easily. And according to the Bible, anxiety and worry is sin because that's a proof that you don't believe in God. So yeah, instead, God put us on this journey, on this path for a purpose. So just enjoy the process and be diligent.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's super useful, I think, because yeah, it blows my mind how I feel like the problems of fundraising and then like the benefits of faith and what faith can give you, like hope, confidence, like less anxiety, they should go hand in hand, right? Yeah, it blows my mind how I feel like there should be more tools and encouragement to do that out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why we're doing this. So yeah, thanks so much for sharing. Is there anything else that you want to share before we close or
Yeah, I think peer is very important that on this journey, especially peers that's face driven and have gone through the journey already.
mm,
Because, like you said, you won't be able to have the hindsight when you're in the journey, right? But people who have gone through the journey, they see it a bit more clear. They wouldn't be able to answer all your questions. But at that moment, what you need the most is people who understand you and can bring faith back into you. So I would suggest to have those regular peer calls and you can be vulnerable with each other and support each other.
yeah, it's true because we can see from the outside what like the others maybe can't see by themselves, right? And vice versa. So, yeah, super important to get that feedback, I think, if you want to grow quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. Thanks so much, Chris. That wraps things up for now, but I'm sure we'll be seeing you again because you have lots of wisdom. And as your journey continues, I'm sure there's so many testimonies from God. Is there anything
Mm.
you want to say to God, I guess? That kind of sounds like a weird question, but like, yeah, what actually, one last question from me would be what have you learned about God through fundraising process? Very philosophical
That's
question.
a very, very good
Very
question.
tough
I
question.
was, yeah, because we were talking, right? There's three paths in front of me. And I'm just asking God, why can't you just make the decision for me? You know? Yeah, like I believe in you. Just make a decision for me. I don't have the perfect answer for that, but
But maybe that shows us actually that God trusts us more than we know. Because I
yeah.
think maybe God does give us a choice because he wants us to choose. And like, it's only us that thinks that we're not in the right position to choose. But God's like, you can choose, like, you know what to do, like, do it. And then, yeah, that's quite interesting actually. Yeah. Like, God
Mm,
trusts us more than we think.
yeah, exactly. I don't know what I can say to him. A lot of times I complain to him.
Yeah.
I complain to him a lot. Reflecting back, I'm also just so grateful.
Mm,
Yeah, I'm very, very grateful. I asked him for the wisdom, and I know that's why he put me on this journey. It's not easy, it's not smooth, but I think God is really shaping me through the process into the image that he likes, right? Like be diligent. This was not something that I'm used to. This is my reflection from yesterday. Growing up, I think probably a lot of us, we are used to having shortcuts because we're smart. And yeah, we're smart, especially people with good personality. It's easy for you to ask for things and get something. But there's no shortcuts in everything. Like, yes, we should look for shortcuts, be shrewd, like the Bible said, but also be very diligent. So that's one thing that I feel like God is really pushing me through is like what worked for you before in your last decade or in your last season of life does not work for you now anymore. You need to rebuild your system. You were talking about system. Rebuild your
yeah.
system and prepare for your next stage of growth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel like God, like, is always described as a gardener. And that's so true because he's like pruning us all the time and cutting off some branches, even if we're just like, no, that's a beautiful flower and a branch, and I spent so much time growing that thing. But then
Mm.
it's like, cut it back so something else can grow. But it's very painful. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's crazy how then like we get tempted to go back into our old patterns as well.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but we've got to help each other keep on the right path. So,
Hmm.
yeah, thanks so much
Yeah.
for sharing, Chris. This is super exciting.